Okay, so this is the activity for scenes 1 and 2. So I'm just going to go over the answers with you, talk a little bit about things that hopefully you observed and that you should understand. And these 1 through 11 are in chronological order. So even though maybe, like, as you can see, number 1 and number 10 both address servant, when we're talking about the servants, we're talking about the very, very beginning, the two that we meet, and then the other house servants that come up. And so they're all in chronological order as you go through the story. And you see that yours tells you the page numbers. I'm going to just have mine set so that we can just see the questions and the answers. So basically, at the very beginning of the story, we've got the servants from the two houses. And the first two we meet are from the Capulet household. And they are just kind of talking a lot of trash about the Montague house and making it pretty clear about this grudge that is going on between the two houses. We could see it in their discussion. And of course, they interact with some members of the other household where some fighting ensues. And so basically, our first one here is F. They're acting like rowdy boys. They're talking about the other houses, and they end up, which depending on your version, you might see that your letters are different, but that is the correct answer, that they're acting rowdy. They end up confronting each other and they're challenging each other. And then on the scene, the first uh, person that arrives is Tybalt. And he definitely, the stage directions tell us that he's hot tempered and he is definitely making it clear. And here's our answer, that he hates all Montagues. He tells Benvolio, like, no, I'm not going to calm down. I hate you. I hate hell. I hate all Montagues. And I even hate you. And let's fight. So basically, he makes it clear that he will not deny a fight. And that he hates all the Montagues. However, we see very, very different attitude in Benvolio. He says, help me keep the peace between these guys. Please help me. If you're going to use your sword, let's use it to part them and to stop this fighting. And he says that he's trying to really keep the peace, which would be this answer. He appeals to keep the peace, and he asks them to put up their swords. So that distinction between the two of them, Tybalt and Benvolio, they are kind of equals as far as their place in their respective houses. Benvolio is Romeo's first cousin. Tybalt is Juliet's first cousin. And of course, they're very loyal to their households. It just happens to be that Tybalt is a little bit quicker to anger and is not interested in peace whatsoever, where Benvolio is happy just to coexist quietly. Then the prince, the authority figure, he's like the sheriff. You could think of him as that. He's in charge of keeping people safe and keeping people in line. And he arrives on the scene and he's very upset because this isn't the first time recently they've had an issue. He says, this is the third time I've had to deal with it. And he makes some warnings and some threats. And this one's going to be A. He intervenes and is irate about the fighting. He warns them with the penalty of death and tells the lords of the houses to come meet with him. So he is saying, we're going to stop this. If you don't, I will. We're going to execute the next person who's caught fighting. Your lives are going to pay for this because you keep dragging innocent citizens into your problems, and we're really tired of it here in the city. We change scenes in scene 2 once the prince is gone, and we get on the subject of Romeo. His parents seem to be a little bit concerned about him. His mother says she's very glad that he wasn't here at this fight, but she's still a little bit worried about how he's been acting. And that's what this question is asking. Romeo is, and he has been, and that's acting moody and sad. Basically, his dad talks about how he shuts out both of his parents, how he shuts the windows, shuts the curtains. As soon as the sun comes up, he closes everything up. If we're around, he goes to his bed. He says, steals home my heavy son. He runs home, and he seems to have these very heavy emotions. So he's been acting very moody and sad and not communicating with his parents, kind of typical teenage behavior when something is wrong. But because Benvolio is his cousin and his close friend, he tells Romeo's father, Lord Montague, that he is going to figure it out. So let's see. he says he's going to try to find out what's been depressing him so much. So Benvolio promises his father he's going to help figure out what it is. And when he talks to Romeo, we do find out what his problem is. Another common teenage problem. It's a girl that's got him down. She does not like him. He likes a girl that doesn't like him back. And her name is mentioned in there. See if you can find it. It is not Juliet. He hasn't even met her yet. But he is a little bit sad about a girl, and that's why he's been so depressed. Our next scene change is, and actually this one is scene 2. The last one, the scene changes as far as characters, but we're still in scene 1. This is actually a new scene in play. We go to a totally different location, and that's the Capulet house, and that is where we meet the County Paris. He's a nice, upstanding lord. Count, I guess, is what his official title would be. And he actually wants something from Lord Capulet, and that is, let's see if I can find it here. He wants to be a suitor to Juliet. So that's the answer for this one. He is asking if he can be able to marry her. Suitor, just like we know from the Odyssey, a group of men or an individual who wants to court a young woman in hopes of being able to marry her. And so Paris is saying, what do you say to my suit? I would like to marry your daughter. But Capulet's response is actually this one, that she's too young. He's like, she just doesn't know very much about the world. She's not ready for that. I'm not really ready to marry her off. She's my baby, and I would like to just keep her for a couple more years in my house and have her be a part of the family and not marry her off. But he says, what you should do is come to the party tonight. Come to the party. Maybe maybe you guys will meet. Maybe you'll meet someone else. Just come and have a good time, and we'll talk about you marrying Juliet some other time. With regard to the party, a servant, the house of Capulet, is sent out into the community to invite certain people whose names are on a list. Capulet says, here, take this letter, and you go and invite these individuals. But the unfortunate part of it is here, the servant can't actually read, which would have been very common. You know history, and you know that not the entire the majority of population, like now in our country, and in many countries around the world, most people can read and write. Well, in this time period, that would have been only for the very wealthy people, and Capulet, of course, isn't even thinking that. He doesn't realize that he's sending his servant to read a letter that he literally cannot read. He's an illiterate member of society. And so what happens is, he ends up, as you see here, he ends up asking Romeo and Benvolio if they can read it for him, which inadvertently invites them to the party. And so they have sort of found out about, Montagues here have found out about a Capulet party, which of course they would not be invited to and probably wouldn't even have known about, other than this accident of the servant coming across them in the streets and saying, hey, excuse me, can you read? And Benvolio gets this great idea, since Romeo has been down about this girl, and that seems to be what has been bothering him, that they should, let me see if I can find the last one. They should go to the party, and they should check out the other girls. He says, examine other beauties. Let's go look at some other girls. I bet you I can find one that's just as pretty as this girl that you seem to be so worried about, and it'll help you get over it. You'll go to this party, and we'll have a good time, and hopefully we'll see some other really pretty girls that make you forget about the one that doesn't like you, Romeo. Let's find one that does. And so he's enticing him to go to the party. Romeo agrees. He's like, yes, I will, but I'm not going to go for that reason. I'm just going to go because, I'll play along, and I will go and be with my friends, and I'm not going to really have a great time, but I'll go and indulge you. So those are the answers. Again, if you have a version, the answer choices may be mixed up if you have a different version, but these are all still in the same order, and the answer descriptions are the same. The letters just might be a little bit different, but you can kind of check your comprehension through what I've discussed here, and also see if you got those answers correct. Let me know if you have any questions about this. Is scene 1 and 2, and then you'll see here in a little bit that there's going to be a discussion of scene 3 with that editable document that you were working on.